Mr. Mayor, we are now live.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Due to the COVID-19 emergency, this meeting of Ajax Council is being held electronically and live streamed on the town's website. All members of council in attendance are participating by audio and video teleconference, and town staff are available throughout the meeting if council members have any questions on the agenda. For members of the public watching from home, please bear with us if we encounter any technical difficulties throughout the meeting. I'll now call this meeting to order. Start with a land acknowledgement. I'd like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territories of the Mississaugas. More specifically, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action and acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation.
Hello, how are you? Good.
Somebody needs to mute their microphone, please. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. And just before we start, I'd just like to speak quickly about the recent invasion of Ukraine. I know it's on the news and on everybody's minds. I think I can safely say that I'm speaking for all members of council and staff when I say that we condemn and denounce the Russian invasion of its neighbor, Ukraine. I've issued a statement to this effect and ordered the Ukraine flag to be flown outside Town Hall as a symbol of our solidarity to the people of Ukraine, as well as many Ukrainian residents who call Ajax their home. And I think it's safe to say our thoughts are with you for a rapid end to this act of violence, and to say to your families that may be in harm's way. You're in our thoughts. Does any member of council have any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. The minutes moved by Councillor Bauer, second by Councillor Tyler Morin. So let me get to this page. That the following minutes of previous council meetings be adopted. The regular meeting of January 24th, 2022, the special meeting of February 7th, 2022, and the closed session meeting of February 7th, 2022. Does any member of council have any questions on those three sets of minutes? No, seeing none. Those in favor, please raise your hands. I see all hands. That is carried. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, was there any residents submitted any questions under question period?
Mr. Mayor, we've received no questions for question period tonight.
Thank you. Moving on to delegations and presentations. Our first presentation is the Ajax Anti-Black Racism Task Force update and the Black History Month proclamation. We have Mariska Thomas, the chair of the Ajax Anti-Black Racism Task Force, and Dane Lawrence, the vice chair of the Ajax Anti-Black Racism Task Force. Ms. Thomas, Mr. Lawrence, whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
This is Mariska Thomas. Mayor Collier, councillors, members of the senior management team, members of the audience, good evening. It is an honor to represent the Ajax Anti-Black Racism Task Force, AABR Task Force, as the chair, and Dane Lawrence, vice chair, will also be presenting this evening. As indicated in the June 29, 2020 motion, the town of Ajax listened to the voices in the community and is committed to take action on systemic and institutional racism to combat barriers felt by the Black community and other racialized groups. The town of Ajax can be a leader in providing opportunities to the Black community and other racialized groups, enabling them to reach their full potential and contributing to the long-term well-being of individuals, families, and communities in Ajax. The task force members have been collaborating on several short-term and long-term goals, and this evening, Dane and I will update you on our progress. Dane Lawrence.
Oh, you're muted, Dean.
Better now?
Yes.
Thank you, Mariska. One of the goals is to encourage the town of Ajax council, staff, and management and community to learn, acknowledge, and participate in the United Nations International Decade of People of African Descent. Around 200 million people, and that's around 200 million people who identify themselves as being of African descent, who live in the Americas, and many millions more live in other parts of the world outside of the African continent. In proclaiming this international year, the international community is recognizing that people of African descent represent a distinct group whose human rights must be promoted and protected. There are three main pillars, which are recognition, justice, and development. These pillars provide the foundation for short and long-term initiatives set out by the AABR task force and will be used as a roadmap towards achieving equity for the Black community within the town of Ajax. We are pleased to note that as of today, the town of Ajax acknowledges the UN International Decade of People of African Descent. The decade and the pillars are the foundation from which the AABR task force anchors their goals. The town of Ajax supports the UN declaration within the AABR task force and has unveiled artwork earlier today by artist Robert Small. A resource document will be created for distribution at town of Ajax facilities outlining the International Decade for People of African Descent and the relationship to the AABR task force initiatives in the near future. The town of Ajax will be implementing paid internships for Ajax residents from the Black community and other racialized groups, connecting the UN Declaration, pillars of justice and development. The policies and procedures will be implemented shortly. Back to you, Mariska. Oh, I guess I have a few things to highlight here. There are some benefits to the paid internship, and I guess there are a number of initiatives, both benefits to the employer and benefits to the interns. But I will cast it back to Mariska at this point.
Thank you, Dean. Here are some of the benefits of a paid internship program. Employers help produce highly productive and potential future leaders by complementing and enhancing a student's academic study through meaningful work experience. And as mentioned previously, the town of Ajax will be seen as ambassadors, leaders, and champions by providing opportunities for Black and other racialized groups. Other benefits include providing students the opportunity to apply the knowledge they have learned in the classroom. And the internship program contributes to marketability, increasing the students' likelihood of receiving future opportunities by developing necessary skills in the professional environment. Next slide, please. The next item is the development of a Black-owned business directory. The task force reached out to local businesses for submissions, which were closed in August 2021. The Black-owned business directory is in its final stages and will be launched quite soon. This initiative will provide the businesses with increased exposure, and potential customers will be able to locate services and products online to support local businesses in Ajax. Next slide, please. The speaker series, consisting of 5 sessions, is now completed and has received excellent feedback. This is connected to the UN Declaration Pillar of Justice with the objective of educating the public on anti-Black systemic and institutional racism, and was presented through the Tongue of Ajax Diversity Exchange Program in partnership with the AABR Task Force. Next slide, please. The task force members have been brainstorming and working diligently on a long-term proposal outlined in the strategic work plan, which is to explore the feasibility of a resource community business center to meet the various needs and interests of the community, to include, but not limited to showcasing culture, arts, health, and professional space. The task force is currently creating a proposal outlining the vision, mission, and mandate to make recommendations to the Tongue of Ajax for an Ajax Community Resource Center with a strong focus on the needs of underrepresented groups, such as the Black community and other racialized groups in Ajax. This initiative is envisioned to be the first of its kind in Durham and will definitely create employment and economic activity in Ajax. On behalf of the Ajax Anti-Black Racism Task Force, I would like to thank the Mayor and Council for listening to the recommendations, which will combat barriers experienced by the Black community and other racialized groups. Thank you, and any questions?
Thank you very much. Does any member of council have any questions? I see Councillor Khan first, then Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mariska and Mr. Lawrence. This is probably more for Dane. Dane, you and I have worked together for about 15 years with small businesses and networking. What was your response like for people for small businesses or businesses overall for the business directory? And first of all, what was the response like? And second, what methods did you use to attract people to be part of it?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. First of all, I wanted to point out that the pandemic has really impacted Durham in particular, Ajax to be specific. And overall, we understand anecdotally that over 40% of Black businesses have disappeared for whatever reason, and the pandemic having a strong influence on some of these business closing. Our goal when we identified some of these businesses was, first of all, to reach out to see what's there. But our reach really was regarding personal calls, sourcing, and having the community themselves add to the list. So it was a combination of us being eyes on the streets, if you will, and then having the community turn around and say, hey, I'm still here. I'd like to sign up for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Well, just want to say thank you so much for, representing us, Ajax, with the fine job you're doing. And Mariska and Dane, thank you very much. Thank you for your answer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer, and I see Councillor Lee next after. Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you very much, Mayor Collier. Good evening, Mariska and Dane. Nice to see you again. It was lovely to be at the unveiling and be all together today. So I really applaud you for your hard work and efforts in making that happen. My question is about the paid internships. So I know that the slide says that it will be the town of Ajax will be implementing paid internships for Ajax residents from the Black community and other racialized groups shortly. Is there any maybe more information or detail that you could share with us? What does shortly mean, and sort of what do you see that internship program looking like?
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. We have
Mariska?
created maybe Natasha should answer that one.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mariska. Hello, Council. Good evening. Through the chair, just to give a little bit of context to that, we are looking for all opportunities to be able to fund paid internships for Black and other underrepresented youth in Ajax and within the town. Right now, we do have some funding for some grant funding for one position right now within planning and developing that I'm working actually right now with that team to put together a description of what that would look like, what would be listed in there, and hopefully we can be up and running with that soon. But with regards to the other positions, we are looking for more than, of course, one, but we are looking for more opportunities within the organization to be able to have more internships for Black and other racialized groups.
Great, thank you so much. That's wonderful.
You're welcome.
One is a good start. Thank you so much. That's my question, Mayor Collier. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lee, you are next.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Thomas and Mr. Lawrence, for your presentation. I'm very interested in the UN Declaration of the Decade of People of African Descent. Currently, are there a lot of municipalities who've acknowledged this already, or is this something that is relatively new in the municipal space in terms of acknowledgement?
Well, I can start and maybe Dane can elaborate. I know the City of Toronto, definitely. And I'm not sure of other municipalities as yet.
No, I think this is exactly I think what the town envisioned when we started this task force, and some of the actionables that I hoped we could take. And this one, it's more than symbolic. It means a lot, especially to an incredibly racialized town like Ajax. So just thank you for spearheading this. I dare say I'm pretty sure we're probably one of the only Durham region ones. And I think ultimately what you're going to see is other Durham region municipalities follow suit with acknowledging this. So just thank you for keeping us ahead of the curve, so to speak, and we look forward to your future recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Any other member of council have any questions for the delegation? No, seeing none. Mr. Clerk, you might have something for me you might want to put on the screen. There we go. So it gives me great pleasure, and probably we should have done this a month ago at the start of Black History Month, not at the last day, but to Corporation of Town of Ajax hereby proclaims February 2022 as Black History Month, presented on behalf of the Mayor and Ajax Council. And it is dated February 1st. So, but next year we'll have to be a little more proactive, and hopefully, if we're here, get it to you before then. I hope we'll all be here. Anyway, thank you, Dane. Thank you, Mariska, for everything you do. We've had the opportunity to attend many of the Black History Month events. They're incredibly well done. Continue my journey of learning about different cultures, and I do appreciate serving with you on the Ajax Anti-Black Racism Task Force, and you brought forward some great suggestions, which we have implemented as well. So thank you, and appreciate your delegation tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, moving on to our next, we have presentation, Durham Black Network, Black History Month, Carrie and Fenn, President of the Carrie and Fenn Foundation, Jim Van Dusen, Vice Chair, Durham Black Network, and Billy Jane Bolton Rojo, member of Durham Black Network. When you're ready, please go ahead, and you have 5 minutes.
Super, thank you. Can we come off camera, or no, we have to stay off camera? I'm just curious, I can't get my camera off.
Well, then I guess we can stay off camera.
We stopped it. Okay, now I can go. There we go. Thank you, host. Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Your Worship, Mayor Collier, and distinguished members of council, staff, and community members. It's delightful to be in front of you all tonight. If we could, I would just love to start. We have a short little video on the next slide. It's very short. If we could just start with that, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tanis, and I am the chair for Durham Black Network, a registered nurse and a nursing educator.
Hi, my name is Jim Van Duzen. I'm the Vice Chair of the Durham Black Network, a car dealer in Ajax, and a philanthropist in Durham.
Hi everyone, my name is Emma Bauer. I'm a member of Durham Black Network, a future teacher, and a former student at Durham Catholic District School Board.
Black History Month is a time to honor the past achievement
And nurture and support future developments of Black Canadians.
And remember, change is possible. Even the smallest of ripples can make a tsunami.
We can all be allies to make the future of Durham better for everyone.
We can work together to make sure that everyone feels like they belong.
Everyone has value.
Everyone deserves respect.
We are Durham Black Network.
Super. Thank you very much for rolling that. On behalf of the Durham Black Network and the Carrie and Fenn Foundation Board of Directors, we sincerely thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight on this special occasion for Black History Month, recognizing Black excellence and achievement and contributions. My name is Jim Van Duzen. For those who may not know you, may not know me, I'm the Vice Chair of the Durham Black Network. I'm a local business person. I care passionately about the Ajax community. And we just want to share with you a little bit about what our organization is doing tonight. And so we appreciate the time. I would like to acknowledge, particularly after just watching the last delegation, thank you to the town of Ajax, which is all of you, for creating the Anti-Black Racism Task Force. Thank you for the proclamation as well. All these things create attention towards these issues, and we're very appreciative for that. So I have here with me today a fellow who's also very awesome, Durham Black Network member, Billie Jane Bolton Rojo, and I'm going to let Billie Jane introduce herself. Are you on mute, Billie Jane?
Muted.
Yeah.
I was, thank you. So yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Billie Jane Bolton Rojo, and I'm excited to be here. I am a member of the Durham Black Network and also a fellow business owner within the Ajax region. So thank you, Jim.
Awesome. So go ahead.
No, that's it.
Okay, that's it. So yeah, if we can go to the vision slide. Durham Black Network is a group of Black community members and allies advocating for equity and equality through increased awareness of systematic anti-Black racism in the Durham region. The team focus is on dismantling barriers to help eliminate systematic issues that the Black community faces within their diverse lived experiences, as we often talk about. The mission is to identify, illuminate, and combat anti-Black racism through positive action and supportive allyship. The vision is to create a legacy for future generations where members of the Black community in Durham region have a sense of belonging that comes from being valued and respected. When George Floyd was murdered, Emma Bauer and her friend Laura Lee Brennan came together to bring the community together. They reached out and asked Carrie and Fenn to lead the march with the community. And these are pictures you can see here from that march and showing the community showing support. I was there with my family, marching peacefully, and I can tell you that to this day was a very impactful day for my family. We're going to roll another quick little video for Billie regarding the actual rally. It was an extraordinary day in a lot of ways. It was a great turnout.
Great, thank you. So yes, the vision of Durham Black Network is to create a legacy for future generations where members of the Black community in Durham region have a sense of belonging that comes from being valued and respected. Move on to the next slide. Yes, thank you. The Carrie and Fenn Foundation is a recipient of the Supporting Black Canadian Community Initiative grant from the Government of Canada to strengthen our organization so that Durham Black Network can run various programs, such as the Black Open Mic, allowing Black community members to share their experiences through poetry or storytelling. The Anti-Black Racism Forum, which is a 3-part series. It's a live or interactive virtual discussion to address systemic anti-Black racism in the areas such as community safety and justice, healthcare and mental well-being, and child welfare. We're also working on a health and well-being program to help support the Black community.
We can move to the next slide. We don't have a specific ask this evening, but what we are encouraging people to do is to take our equity and equality challenge. You can purchase a t-shirt at www.carryandfend.org. You can wear your t-shirt, record a message, tell us what equity and equality means to you, and you can send us your video, and you can join our equity and equality community marketing campaign for change.
Great, next slide. The former president, Barack Obama, said, change will not come if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. We are working at implementing and maintaining meaningful change, and we must work together for our community.
And we can slip the next slide. It is amazing to see ordinary community members coming together through the Durham Black Network. 70% Black community members, 30% non-Black community members on the board, working together to support the Black community. We are asking you as council members to continue to have an open mind, fund programs, look at your staffing, reach out to other levels of government, both provincial and federal, to support initiatives and programs to encourage equity and equality. Because we're not there yet. We still have lots to do, and we still need to all work together.
Next slide. The Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine said, Black history is not just for Black people. Black history is Canadian history.
And if we can flip to the next slide. So I'm Jim, and you guys know me as Jim, most of you, and this is Black History Month. And I would encourage all of you to not only engage, learn, recognize, value the importance of Black history, but I also want you to ask yourselves, what can I do? What can I do to help make a difference for Black history? Or even greater still, you can ask yourselves, what can I do to be in Black history? Because as today passes, it becomes history. We all have an opportunity to make a difference here.
Next slide. Now, Ms. Viola Desmond said, do your little bit of good where you are. It is those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. We believe in our region. We believe that we all can do little bits of good because together we are stronger. Thank you.
And our final slide. Thank you once again, everybody, for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure to see you. Haven't seen some of you in a while. I'm hoping to see some of you live soon. Looking forward to that. But thank you. Thanks for listening. If there's any questions, we're open to answering questions.
Excellent. Thank you. Does any member of council have any questions on the delegation? Regional Councilor Crawford.
Thank you for your presentation. Good to see you also, sort of see you. So you were saying if you get a t-shirt, you wanted, what was the instructions?
Just to order the t-shirt, take a quick little video talking about equity and equality. And then if you send it to us, and we'll help promote it and push it out there through our channels.
And how would that be sent to you?
It could be, Billie Jane, you might know better than I, but I'm sure it can be, there'd be an email on the actual Durham Black Network site that we could send it through to.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Councilor Crawford.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Bauer.
Thank you, Chair. Very nice to see you tonight. Thank you for your presentation. Full disclosure, one of my favorite people is a member of your network. I'm very proud of the work she's doing. Actually, as we speak, she's presenting to Pickering Council.
That's right.
So my question is about the Black open mic sessions that you run. Can you just tell a little bit more about it? I've been to a couple and I think they're fantastic. So it'd be great if you could just talk a little bit more.
Billie Jane, you want to take that?
Sure. So it is usually it's an evening event that we host quarterly and invite the community to join us. And it's really an evening of sharing and conversation. We share a number of quotes that help to sort of set the stage for, what we are, for what we want to talk about during that session. And we have so many people join, tell their own stories, their own experiences. It's a space where they can feel safe and brave to share those experiences. But then also we have so so many gifted people join us and share their stories through storytelling, through spoken word and poetry. And so it is really a wonderful event for people to be able to share. But then we don't just close off with just the sharing. We always end the event with like a healing activity, because some of the information shared can be emotionally charged. And so we want to help everyone to sort of dispel any of those, feelings that have been aroused, to have a sense of peace as they leave the event. So it's one where we continue to see new members join us, as well as recurring with new poems and spoken word to share with us. I don't know if Jim, you want to add anything more?
I think you covered it perfectly.
Thank you very much. Yes, they're wonderful events.
Thank you.
That's my question, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further by members of council? No, seeing none. I'll just say nice to see you again, Jim. Nice to meet you, Billy Jane. Thank you for your presentation and your delegation and everything you do in our community. Very much appreciated. And
Thank you.
That's it. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next delegation, we have Rizwan Mohammed, Advocacy Advisor of the National Council of Canadian Muslims. How can we take action against Islamophobia together? Mr. Mohammed, are you ready to go?
Yes, I am.
Okay, please go ahead. You'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Rizwan Mohammed, and I'm with the National Council of Canadian Muslims, or the NCCM. The NCCM is an independent, nonpartisan, and nonprofit organization that protects Canadian human rights and civil liberties, challenges discrimination and Islamophobia, builds mutual understanding, and advocates for the public concerns of Canadian Muslims. On behalf of NCCM, I'd like to thank Mayor Collier and Town Council for entertaining a motion tonight in support of the NCCM's anti-Islamophobia municipal recommendations brought forward by Regional Councillor Lee and Councillor Khan. I join you tonight to speak in favor of this motion, not just as a representative of the NCCM, but also as a Ward 3 resident of Ajax. I've been fortunate to have grown up in Ajax and Pickering and to have lived in Ajax for about 17 years. I've been happy to witness demographic change in our population so that it's now comprised of reportedly a racialized majority of 56% of our population. Amazing. I've also witnessed with pride how Ajax has taken positive steps to create more positive spaces, policies, and programming to help promote inclusion and equality. I remember participating in the town's first conference on diversity and inclusion and seeing how the town brought people and organizations together that I had no idea about before. I also saw Ajax run a public awareness campaign called Ajax for All that included representation from a visibly Muslim woman for the first time. I've also been excited to follow the progress of the Ajax Anti-Black Racism Task Force, which we heard from tonight. We see this motion passing as an opportunity to build on that commitment to action that Ajax has already shown. This is important now because of the ongoing need for such action. Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, anti-Black racism, and other forms of hate and racism are on the rise according to Statistics Canada and many other sources. Hate crimes and hate-motivated incidents continue to rise, with only a small fraction of them being reported to police. Now, before the pandemic, I was walking on Bailey Street on my way to night prayers during the holy month of Ramadan, being held at the downtown Ajax Mosque just across the street from Town Hall. I was wearing a regular pair of pants and a shirt that I might wear to work on any given day, but I was also wearing my topi, or a white skull cap that looks similar to a Jewish kippah. Walking along Bailey that night, as a pickup truck passed by me, I heard loud voices shouting something in my direction, and as I turned to look, suddenly a beer bottle was thrown and smashed on the sidewalk just in front of me. And I just heard people laughing as the truck sped off. I took off my cap, put it in my pocket, and from that day, I have to admit I've avoided wearing my cap in public while walking in Ajax. I never reported the incident to police or any elected official or any leader at my mosque about it, for that matter. I felt like there was no point because I felt like nothing could be done. In October 2021, at a panel discussion hosted by the Ajax Public Library, I heard from other Muslim community members who had experienced Islamophobia, 2 other stories of people having bottles thrown at them in public in Ajax. They also never reported what happened to them, feeling like nothing could be done. Well, tonight, Mayor Collier, council, you can change that. If town council passes this motion, it can set us on a path towards reasonable, meaningful action to address Islamophobia in the long term, to grow an Ajax free of hate and safe for all. This motion is an important commitment at an important time, and we hope you will pass it. Thank you, and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you, and thank you for your delegation. And I'll just say, I think on behalf of everybody, I'm very sorry to hear about that incident happening. I'm maybe naive, but I feel a bit shocked that that would happen here in Ajax, because that's not what we're about. So on behalf of all of us, I think I can say I'm a bit shocked and sorry that that had happened to you. I'm going to bring the motion forward that's on the agenda so we can deal with it at the same time. So Mr. Clerk, I wonder if you could put the motion by Councillor Lee and Councillor Khan on the screen. And if people have any questions, you can also ask questions on the motion at the same time. Councillor Lee, or Councillor Lee as the mover, do you want to start?
Sure. It's a lengthy motion, so I think most of council's read it already. I think if the clerk doesn't mind scrolling down to the therefore, just want to kind of read summarize of, now therefore be it resolved that 1, Ajax Council endorsed the municipal recommendations as prepared by the NCCM for the National Summit on Islamophobia. 2, Ajax Council requests the FCM to enact the anti-Islamophobia recommendations proposed by Brampton Council. And 3, that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Ontario Big City Mayors, the Honourable Mark Holland, MP for Ajax, the Ajax Provincial Constituency Office, the Regional Municipality of Durham and lower tier municipalities in Durham Region, the City of Brampton, and the NCCM. And Mr. Chair, I'd like to just quickly speak on this, if I may.
Go ahead.
So, this shouldn't come as a surprise of this coming from Ajax. We've talked about this ad nauseum, and it's just an extension of what I truly think is the Ajax identity, which is to Mr. Mohammed's point earlier, the idea that Ajax for all, the fact that we're a sanctuary city, the fact that we pride ourselves on being one of the most racialized municipalities, and the same way we insist on standing up for anti-Black racism, anti-Asian hate. This is anti-Semitism. Anti-Islamophobia is the next logical step. If you look at the recommendations the NCCM laid out, we're probably doing most, if not all of them already. But this is just a way to finally formalize this and provide protection. And it's like the mayor said, I hate to hear that this is happening in our town. And people often just say, but not in Canada. I expect this in the United States, but not in Canada. Well, not only is it in Canada, it's in Ajax, Ontario. And as a council, I think it's imperative for us to stand up, take a leadership stance on this and say that we represent everybody. We want everybody to be safe in their town. And that's really just a really fundamentally basic right. And so I would appreciate council support on this. I think it's really important. And at the appropriate time, Chair, I'd like to call for a recorded vote. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. This is questions to the delegation, but the motion is forward, so you can speak to it as well. Councillor Khan, did you want to, as the seconder, go next, and I'll open it up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Reading this report and this motion, I had a variety of emotions: anger, disappointment, sadness. When Muslims come to this country, when they come to Canada, they are not the scum of the earth. They come here qualified with their resources. They've left their homes, their families, their villages to not be mediocre in Canada, in Ajax. We've come here, we've created employment, we pay taxes, we've built our community with the highest of integrity. And when I see this, when I stand in an elevator with my family with a hijab and the topi and the beard, and somebody looks at us and says, no, we'll get the next one. That stings, and that happens right in Canada. We've traveled the world, and unfortunately in Ajax, sometimes you have to get the approval in somebody's eyes when you go into a store or you meet somebody who is Canadian. So, what century are we living in to have to bring motions like this to the table? It's very saddening. And I just want people to understand that when Muslims come to Canada, they have something to offer, something very good, great resources to build this community. And I want to stand firm and say that out loud and clear. We're not here to be threatened and to go to my kids wear the hijab and the topi and the thawb, and they walk the streets. I am scared every single day when they stand up to go to university or walk to the mosque. So Brother Rizwan, thank you so much for bringing this forward. Councillor Lee, thank you for taking the lead, and Mayor Collier. You've been fearless in supporting us with these motions, and I thank you very much and all of my council colleagues. Thank you.
Any other member of council wish to ask questions or speak to this? Councillor Dice?
Oh, thank you. And thank you very much for bringing this forward in your presentation and in this recommendation. It's sad, very sad that we thought we'd come so far and we'd done so much work in the community for, over the past 20 years, we've had the highest number of new immigrants here in Ajax. And that's why we're a sanctuary city. That's why we want inclusivity in our community. We want people to be treated equally. We want that equality. And we seem to be taking some steps backwards, not just here, but in other countries around the world. And part of the fueling of that fire, I think, is the social media that goes around. But to know that our members of our community are having incidents, as you described, with the bottle being thrown is frightening. I hope with time that they'll feel confident enough to come forward and report those incidents so we can actually track what is going on and how it's going on and try and solve that problem. But I support your motion and appreciate you bringing this forward. And thank you again for coming this evening.
Thank you. Further, Councilor Bauer?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Mr. Mohammed, Rez. It's very nice to see you. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for sharing with us. And thank you so much for all the hard work that you do and the NCCM does. So my question, Emma, I 100% fully support this motion. Have you brought this or made this presentation to other municipalities? And can you tell us a little bit about the reactions?
Thank you, Councillor Bauer, for that question. I want to start by just thanking Mayor Collier and for your kind words in response to what I said. Sometimes in meetings, we get locked into certain gears of moving from one item to the other, and it's sometimes everyone's not as responsive to what they've actually just heard, as always. And I really appreciate, Mayor Collier, you actively listening to the stories that we told. And I agree with you that part of the shock of not reporting in that moment was that was not my experience growing up in Ajax. My experience growing up in Ajax was total strangers walking their dogs or walking anywhere, greeting me and wishing me a good day, asking me how I was doing. And I think, to Councillor Dai's observation, there has been so much demographic change so quickly, and we thought we were growing in more respect and more appreciation for one another. I think at the same time that that's happening, there's also parallel to that, a lot of people struggling with a lot of difficult experiences regarding discrimination, bigotry, and hate of different kinds. And I see from council tonight, and I've not just tonight, but over the course of all of the conversations that have been happening since the Anti-Black Racism Task Force was struck, arguably even before then, during the conversations that council had about addressing anti-Semitism through changing street names, if that was a step that needed to be taken, and considering and debating those things, I see a lot of goodwill on council to address these things. And I think with leaders like yourselves, we can address this kind of discrimination and racism and hate that emerges at times and in certain sectors of our cross sections of our community. To Councillor Bauer's question, I have been making a similar presentation to cities across Canada, especially focused in Ontario, where I live. But I have colleagues who are based in Alberta, and I have colleagues from our office in Quebec that are also making similar presentations to other municipal governments, provincial governments, and others at the federal level. In terms of what's happening with municipal governments in Ontario, especially Southern Ontario, I can tell you that the City of Toronto has embraced and endorsed almost all of the recommendations. There's some discussion happening on one or two of them. And the City of Brampton, the City of Kingston, the City of London have endorsed all of the recommendations. Smaller towns like St. Catharines and a few others have embraced all of the recommendations as well. I can say that the City of London, towards the end of January of this year, was the first city in the country to not just endorse all of the recommendations, but to come forward with a specific action plan, which staff produced in consultation with many different community groups across the city. They had developed an anti-Islamophobia working group, which made a lot of recommendations, and the staff worked diligently across multiple departments to come up with ways to operationalize these recommendations. And the report, which I'm happy to share with Town of Ajax staff, if interested, is called Disrupting Islamophobia. And it's a plan to promote inclusion for all residents. So I think there's models, definitely, Councillor Bauer, models of good practice that are emerging, and other cities that Ajax is joining, other municipal governments that Ajax is joining as they make these policy commitments.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That was my question, Mayor Collier.
Thank you. And Mr. Mohammed, if you wouldn't mind sharing that, I think we can put Natasha's email in the chat box here for you, or we can provide it to you to share with us, please. Councillor Crawford, you were next.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much for your delegation and for this motion to come forward. Racism is definitely alive in just about anywhere you go, and I'm appalled to think that an Ajax citizen cannot walk down the street without feeling the burn of that. And I do apologize that this did happen to you. I know after the London attack, Rob and I went to speak with one of the leaders of the Pickering Mosque, and just listening to the stories of their family and what their families have gone through, it's like I didn't even live in the same country and the same town, like the same region. It was just so, it was so hard to hear it, because it's obviously it's not what I experienced, and I always want to believe that we're better than that, but that was not their experience. It's not your experience. And so in the journey of understanding your bias and understanding, what everyone is going through, it's a slow journey, and we've come a long way in, I think, 2-3 years as a council and as a town, but there's so much more that we need to do. And you say in words you're going to stand up for things. That's not always as easy as it sounds, right? Like those are words, those are empty words until you actually put into action. And it's a really hard thing. It's a really hard thing, right? And so I just want to say that from the bottom of my heart, that I am very sorry that you had to experience that, and that there are residents, whether Muslim or Hindu or Black or Chinese, as we've known over this past 2 years, who have experienced hatred, and it's unacceptable on every level of the human race. So thank you for your presentation and your honesty.
Thank you. And Councillor Tyler Moore.
Very, very quickly, Your Worship. I don't want to repeat what my council colleagues have said. Tonight, all the presenters and the delegates have said thank you to us for listening. Dane said it, Mariska said it, Jim Van Dusen said it, Mr. Mohammed said it. We met before in meetings, and my council colleagues have said this, but your perspectives, shouldn't be something that we have to learn or to be educated on, but thank you for that, because it's incredibly important that you share your your perspectives with us. And I'm just going to keep it very simple. Thank you so much for that, because we are listening, but that's only because you're talking. So thank you for that. Thank you, Your Worship.
I think that's everybody. Anyone else have anything further on this before I wade in? No, you got me now. I should have opened with Assalamu alaikum. I apologize for that. I forgot my manners, but I've been to the mosque many times, and I've always found them to be very friendly and receiving of us, even if they don't, some don't like you, right? And even if you're a politician, but still so friendly and so active in the community and so many different things, whether it's the food drives or food and toy drive at Christmas, a lot of different things, bringing things to the hospitals. And we see that, and I think more people need to see that, and we need to be talking about it more. I remember when I allowed the call to prayer to be played during Ramadan, at the start of COVID, because anything that we could do to, relaxing the noise bylaw to allow that, but keeps people home and gives them comfort, helps them get through, I thought was good. But some of the calls I got were mind blowing, and you could really, and I don't think I've shared this with many people, but I realize some of the Islamophobia, I'll call it, that's out there just through that, and some people's intolerance of even just allowing the call to prayer to be played for 2 minutes at the start of at sunset. So I've never heard of bottles before, and once again, I don't ever want to hear that again. Please let us know if that happens, and we will get the police on those. I mean, get the license number, and we will make sure that we do that. But I hope that we can move forward, and by doing things like this and speaking about it and educating people on it, and hopefully get past a lot of this and these issues that we deal with in this case Islamophobia, or whether it's any other racism in any other form. It just has no home here in this town or in Canada, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, we have the motion. A recorded vote has been called. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you. On the motion, in favor or opposed, Regional Councillor Lee.
In favor.
Councillor Tyler Morin.
In favor.
Councillor Bauer.
In favor.
Councillor Crawford.
In favor.
Regional Councillor Dyes.
In favor.
Councillor Khan.
In favor.
Mayor Collier.
And I should have said Mrs. Clerk. My apologies. In favor. And that carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Appreciate your delegation this evening. Moving on to our last delegation, we have Canada Post Super Community Mailbox presentation, Devin Jarvis, Interim Supervisor of Corporate Communications. There's her smiling face. Mr. Jarvis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Council. I'm here this evening to discuss Canada Post signage options after doing a thorough investigation following our operating budget meeting. So essentially, I have 3 options to present to you tonight, but really only 2 as we look at the first one here. So the first option we investigated was to place sticker decals directly onto the Canada Post mailboxes. After discussions with Canada Post about this particular option, we have found that unfortunately, it is not an option as they do not permit this type of signage on their mailboxes. It is part of their internal policies, unfortunately. So the second option from there, this is also Canada Post's preferred option after many conversations with Canada Post, and that is to mail a communication letter to residents in Ajax. This is a standard letter that Canada Post offers all municipalities who might be having some issues regarding waste at community mailboxes. So this particular option would be fully managed by Canada Post. They would look after the mailing of it. There would be no cost to us. And while it is a standard letter that they normally deliver, they have offered an option to personalize the standard letter to Ajax residents. And that is something that we could work on with their communications team. And if we could go to the next slide, please. The third option here would be the installation of metal aluminum signage close to the Canada Post mailboxes. To the right here, we do have a mock-up of a sign. So this particular sign is an 8.5 by 11 sign. We opted to the 8.5 by 11 just to ensure that it was clear and visible to residents. So the cost for approximately 100 signs, which is how many super mailboxes that we have in the town, would be $13,500 plus tax on top of that. So north of $15,000. And that includes the materials, labor, and equipment. So it's a fulsome quote. The other consideration for this particular option is that a utility locate would be required prior to this installation. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, these utility locates have been taking quite a bit longer than usual to complete and could take over 2 months. So there may be a slight delay from decision and delivering and printing to the actual installation into the ground. These are essentially the two options that are available for the signage here for your consideration.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Lee.
Sorry. So through the chair to Ms. Jarvis, before I kind of go into my spiel, isn't there a cheaper sign option? Like what about an H-frame and a sign that way? Like, isn't that something that would not be, you know, $13,500 before taxes? Is that something staff looked into?
So through the chair, to answer that, we do also have to put into consideration wear and tear of these signs. These are outdoor signs that will be outside, you know, during the winter, spring, fall, summer. So that's why we did opt to the aluminum metal signage due to wear and tear. And also we do have to consider essentially the area near Canada Post mailboxes. Each area is different. Some may have more room, some, you know, such as this photo here, there is the grass area. Not every single area of Canada Post mailboxes include this grassy area. And Canada Post did also let me know that they have experienced issues in the past where signage have been installed at mailbox locations with essentially just having to consistently redo the signage due to wear and tear. So that's where we went with the metal sign.
Fair enough. So I also think it's ironic that Canada Post wants us to mail out to residents like a notice that they will most probably end up throwing away. Sorry, this is an incredibly frustrating process, and I apologize for my lack of decorum, but you know, 13,500, we're not that far off from the initial, you know, 22,000 that was proposed. That would for sure have addressed the issue at hand. So I don't think any of the options are overly appetizing to me. So I think I would just wait to hear from the rest of council. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Anybody else want to speak to this? I'm not even going to speak to it. Councillor Khan, I saw your hand.
Thank you, Mayor. The option, was it the option 2 with the mail out for Canada Post, correct? So you said that was no cost to us.
Through the chair, correct.
Right. And is there a way we can track it, that it was actually done? Is there any way, any guarantee that they are going to do it? If it's not going to cost us anything, give it a shot and see what happens.
Yep, through the chair, we can absolutely request. Canada Post does provide a receipt following any mailouts, and we can absolutely require that from Canada Post as a follow-up after the mailout.
And they will personalize, as you said, as per address, correct?
Through the chair, it would not be personalized to each individual resident address. However, it would be personalized to Ajax residents. So it wouldn't just be their standard language that goes to any Ontario municipality, and we could work on the particular language in the letter.
Okay. All right. So that would be interesting to see what kind of results we get from it. It's not going to cost us a penny. So anyways, thank you, Ms. Jarvis. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Ms. Jarvis. So you said Canada Post offers this service to communities that have had these issues, correct? Do they ever follow up to see if it was effective or if it worked or anything like that?
Through the chair, I am not 100% certain. I would understand that most likely due to the effectiveness, they would probably hear from the municipalities directly following. For example, the regional representative for us, it represents Ajax, Pickering, and Markham, and she was able to speak to each community's issues, quite at length, as she does consistently have direct communication with municipalities. So I am sure that I could ask kind of what they have done in the past to see the effectiveness, and also ask for them to track that as well in our locations. And we could also just from eyes on the ground see if there's any difference that is being made as well.
So I'm kind of the mind of Councillor Khan. If it's not going to cost anything, have it done. But I honestly think that the people that will be reading it are the people that are not going to be doing it. So I'm not sure really the effectiveness of a mail out. Yeah, it seems silly, but anyway, that's just my comments.
Anybody else? I see Councillor Khan's hand, but you've spoken, so I'm gonna see if there's anybody else first. And I've reconsidered. I'm gonna make a couple of comments on this, just because I can't not. I'm just blown away that we're even having to have this discussion again. We already had it for about 40 minutes last time. Now we're having it again, that we even need to talk about what to do to stop people littering around these mailboxes. Blows my mind. And Canada Post, I'm sorry, but I mean, those mailboxes are covered in walk your dog and home daycare and flyers for all kinds of stuff, and they don't clean that off. And they have the audacity to say, no, we won't allow you to put a sticker on our mailbox to help solve a problem that they're contributing to and profiting from. That's just total hypocrisy. I'm sorry. I wanted to be quiet on this. I really did. But I'm so frustrated and disgusted that this is even a thing that we need to deal with. As far as to the signs, I mean, I would be really interested if we could track how many of those free envelopes get dropped on the ground. Because anything that comes to my house that says to the homeowner or resident goes right in the blue bin. So I don't know. It's just absolutely frustrating to me. All I have to say. Councillor Lee, if you want to come back in.
Thank you. So just if we were to put, please don't litter, help keep your community clean, Ajax by the lake, that is actually a sign, in theory, we could actually use in other areas where we are possibly seeing garbage issues. Ideally, the theory behind this is people, again, and this is proven to work at other community mailboxes from other residents that Councillor Khan and I have had, then they say signage works. So my suggestion actually is, keep the wording a bit more flexible, of just an anti-litter message, keep our community clean. We can reuse these metal signs once they're in areas that don't require them anymore. So I actually think option 3 is probably our best option. I think option 2, the Canada Post one, that's the problem, is that we're getting like unwanted mail and it's being thrown. The problem is people are throwing it, willy-nilly. So I think by creating these signs, we can use them in parks, we can use them in other areas we have garbage issues as a first wave attack to try and combat litter. So I think the clerk has wording. I think I'm going to ask one last time for a motion, and I think this would be the appropriate time, Mr. Chair, but to enact option 3 with, flexible lettering that's just anti-littering so that we can reuse these signs in other areas. And I guess I would need a seconder for this motion.
Second by Councilor Tyler Moore.
Mr. Chair, if I could suggest that this motion be held until the report on approving the operating budget so that any funding can be included in that approval.
As an amendment to the budget.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good.
Which will come shortly in 2 more.
Thank you.
Okay, anything further on this?
Should I, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, should I speak on this now? The seconder or don't need to?
You can, but you're probably better as a seconder of the motion.
Yeah. Oh, I understand. I just understood what you said. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Everest.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. Okay, moving along, we have items of correspondence. Moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Tyler Morin. Hold on, bring this up. That the report dated February 20th, 2022, containing items of correspondence be received for information. I have a couple of polls. Councillor Khan, you wanted number 3. Councillor Lee, number 6, and Councillor Dias, number 8. Were any other member council wishing to poll anything else from the agenda? Okay, on the balance, those in favor of receipt of the balance? I see all hands, that is carried. Moving on to item number 3, Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to pull Mayor Carter's letter for endorsement. It's about for the government to expand wage subsidies, rent, electricity, and grants. Small business is the backbone of our society, of our community, and they've all hurt very bad. Initially, we were given a $40,000 or $60,000, which just was a dip to carry us through the first year, and that's long been exhausted. Many businesses have closed. People are trying. You get a little bit of a push, and you start again. Then you get shut down again. Small businesses do need the support, and they're a vital part of our economy. Again, for the government to keep maintaining small businesses, it will help and get our economy back up and running faster. So I would love to endorse that from Mayor Carter. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for endorsement? I saw Councillor Crawford first, second by Councillor Crawford. Anybody else wish to speak on this? Nope. Those in favor of endorsement, please say yes or raise your hand. I see all hands. That's carried. Moving on to item number 6, Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Item 6 from correspondence is from Scugog regarding iGaming. So the province has entered, we are a host municipality for a casino. That's to no surprise to anyone, but realistically, the province has started the process of iGaming, which is through their OLG website, allowing residents to kind of gamble from the comfort of their own home. I'm not against any sort of progress, and I understand this is kind of where the market is going, but I also think there should be some assurances given to host municipalities who have put the money into the infrastructure of having casinos, to the security, the police, having done their due diligence, not to just lose all these jobs at the whim without any sort of plan to support host communities. And that's including us, Pickering, Toronto, and obviously Scugog with their full-fledged casino. I think it's important to have a plan, not to just phase out jobs without giving people a chance to fight for them. And so I absolutely support Scugog's motion, and I also like to endorse this.
Okay, do we have a seconder for endorsement? Second by Councillor Bauer. Anything further on this? Nope. Those in favor of endorsement, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any opposed? Nope. There it is. 5, 6. That passes. Finally, number 8, Councillor Dias.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to bring this forward. It's a letter from the Durham District School Board and Catholic boards regarding an issue that's come before this council a number of times with delegations to speak to changes in busing where they have problems in rural areas where they have dead-end roads and the large school buses cannot get around those roads. So they have relocated those bus stops to other areas, and in some cases very in areas that aren't appropriate for children. They're on major roads. So they are now asking for the provincial government to pay for these, to pay for the widening of these circles at the dead end road, so these buses can back in and out through infrastructure funding. And I just wanted people to know that, because this has been going on for some time. It's been a heated debate. I think it makes sense, as the province is responsible for funding education, that it could come under that provincial infrastructure funding grant. So it's just really for information to the public, and I look forward to hearing what comes out of it. I'm sure there'll be a response soon. Thank you.
Thank you. So you're moving that?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll move. Thank you.
Seconder, please. Second by Councillor Crawford. Anything further on this item? Nope. Those in favor, support? I see all hands. That is carried. That concludes items of correspondence. Moving on to reports. The Community Affairs and Planning Committee report of February 7th, 2022, moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Tyler Morin, that the Community Affairs and Planning Committee report dated February 7th be adopted. Any questions or comments on this? Nope. Those in favor of receipt, please raise your hands. I see all hands. That is carried. Moving on to our next item. Oh, sorry, I lost my screen here. There we go. The item 7.2.1, General Government Committee. Operating budget, February 14, 2022, moved by Councillor Bauer, second by Councillor Lee. The General Government Committee 2022 operating budget report dated February 14th, 2022 be adopted. Councillor Lee, you have an amendment?
Yes, please. And I assume the clerk has the language that we can put on the screen. So I'll just read it, that the 2022 operating budget, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Tyler Morin, the 2022 operating budget be amended by adding $15,000 for the procurement and installation of anti-litter educational signage at super community mailboxes locations in Ajax. I won't speak on it again. I just think if there's an option to reuse these signs, and we have litter is not just condensed to these litter boxes, and we think signage is something that's going to work. I think we can repurpose these signs as need be, so it's actually a lot more of a long-term investment instead of just a single issue investment. So I'd appreciate council support on this. Thank you, Chair.
Anything further on this? Councillor Tyler Moore, now would be the time to speak to it if you wanted to.
Very, very simply, Your Worship, I hope we get council support on this. It's something. This is a problem with litter in the town. For some reason, it really, really bothers me that people would take their, especially around these super mailboxes and our smaller community mailboxes. So we've seen signs work on smaller paths that are where Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford and I work and live, and they've worked, probably not perfectly, but this is something. So again, thank you for bringing this forth, Councillor Lee, and hopefully we get support on this. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Further? Well, I'm probably going to trigger some comments, but I'm going to say something because I can't support it. I do apologize, folks. I mean, we brought this forward for staff to look at it, and I was surprised that council wasn't willing to support the $22,000 for blue bins that were collected by the region at this. I thought that would have been the best idea. I've seen signs, we have signs everywhere, and in my experience, they just don't work. I can't, in good conscience, and it's actually $15,255, 13 something plus tax. But I can't in good conscience not spend $22,000 for something I know is going to work, which is a blue bin picking up the litter that will make it so our staff don't have to pick up the litter, rather than $15,255 for signage to tell people something that people should know damn well not to do. And to use Councillor Crawford's words, I don't want to reward people for bad behavior. I mean, we shouldn't have to do this, and I certainly can't support $15,000+ for that. So I'm not going to be supporting it. I'll ask for a recorded vote, please.
Thank you. On the motion, in favor or opposed, Councillor Crawford,
In favor.
Regional Councillor Dyes,
Opposed.
Councillor Khan,
Opposed.
Regional Councillor Lee,
In favor.
Councillor Tyler Morin,
In favor.
Councillor Bauer,
Opposed.
Mayor Collier.
Opposed.
That motion fails.
Okay, on the item of the budget moved by Councillor Bauer, second by Councillor Lee. Is there any other amendments? Hearing, seeing none. Councillor Bauer, I know I asked you before, did you want to speak to this as budget chair, or did we just want to go ahead?
I think it's okay to just go ahead, Mayor Collier. I said it at the meeting. I want to thank everybody for their hard work, and this is a smart and reasonable budget. So thank you.
Thank you. And I absolutely agree. And I just want to reiterate, thank you, Councillor Bauer, for taking this on, especially during the election year. And thank you to our staff, and thank you to this council. This budget does an enormous amount. And we've had some real challenges, not just COVID, but a number of other things like the fire master plan, like the stormwater plan, like the asset management plan, that have really raised some concerns about some big ticket items that we're a bit behind the ball on that we need to get done. And this budget does a bunch of those things. There's 12 business plans in here that like hiring 20 new firefighters that we can do for a very, very small amount, pretty much maintaining status quo and an inflationary economy of 5.2% right now is, I think, great job to our staff. And I think they've worked very, very hard. So I just wanted to say that thank you again, and thank you to council. I think this is a great budget, and it really helps move us forward without almost really any of an increase to our residents. Let's have a recorded vote just for fun. Budgets are important.
On the budget motion, in favor or opposed, Councillor Crawford,
In favor.
Regional Councillor Dyes,
In favor.
Councillor Khan,
In favor.
Regional Councillor Lee,
In favor.
Councillor Tyler Morin,
In favor.
Councillor Bauer,
In favor.
Mayor Collier.
In favor, and that passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Moving on to the next item. General Government Committee report dated February 22nd, 2022, moved by Councillor Tyler Morin, second by Councillor Dyes, that the General Government Committee report dated February 22nd, 2022 be adopted. Any questions or comments on the GDC report? No, those in favor of approval? Thank you. That is carried. Moving on to the regional, oh, so hold on. Sorry, advisory committee reports. Summary of advisory committee reports moved by Councillor Khan, second by Councillor Dyes, that the summary of advisory committee activity report dated February 28, 2022, as attached to the meeting agenda be received for information, and that the recommendations contained therein be referred to staff where applicable. Questions or comments on the advisory committee reports? Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted you to know that I sit on the Heritage Committee, and I sat before on the Accessibility Committee, and we have a fantastic team, Mike Sawchuk and Sarah Moore. Just want to point out that our new Heritage Minute is out on the town of Ajax's social media, and you need to check it out. We've got real hardworking committee members working on that, and it's something to be very, very proud of. So please check it out. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You are welcome. Anything further on advisory committee reports? Nope. Those in favor of receipt? I see those hands. I see all hands. That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to departmental reports. FIN 2022-02 report on non-cash expenses as required by Ontario Regulation 28409. Moved by Councillor Bauer, second by Councillor Crawford, that the report on excluded non-cash expenses as required by Ontario Regulation 28409 be received for information. Sure, there's going to be lots of questions on this one. Any questions? No, being none, those in favor of receipt, please raise your hands. I see 6, that carries. Thank you. Moving on to our next departmental reports. 7.4.2 fee waiver for residential school survivors applying for name change, moved by Councillor Bauer, second by Councillor Tyler Morin. That the report entitled fee waiver for residential school survivors applying for name change be received for information. Anybody questions, wish to speak to this? Councillor Lee, please go ahead.
Just a question, I think it'd be to Director Cooper. It's the communications side. It just says that they be self-identifying. Is that correct? So we're not asking for any sort of proof that they're a victim of the residential schools system?
That's correct, Regional Councillor Lee.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Good question. Anything further? Oh, those in favor of the change? I see all hands. That is carried. Finally, the last departmental report, appointment to the Ajax Public Library Board, moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Dyes, that Aisha Chaudhry of Ajax be appointed to the Ajax Public Library Board for the remainder of the 2018 to 2022 council term, or until a successor is appointed effective March 2nd, 2022. Any questions or comments on the appointment? Nope. Those in favor of the appointment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. That is carried. Moving on to regional council reports. Do we have any regional council reports? Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to report that at COW, Committee of the Whole, we had a presentation on Durham 311, which is a consolidated call center that has been worked on it was approved in the 2021 year. They're looking to actually have it launched in August of this year, August 2022. And the idea of this is that generally, there is some confusion around responsibilities of lower tier municipalities and the region. So if a resident makes one call, Durham 311, and it happens to be a municipality issue, there can be a direct connection to the appropriate municipality by making one call, as opposed to saying, oh, you have to call this number. They're looking to consolidate customer service desks. So we have currently 80 separate desks into one call center. And also there's an option for a chat function once it's up and running if you don't want to talk on the phone. They're looking to automate most of the forms. Instead of having to come in and pick up forms, you can have automated forms so that you can do everything off your computer, which is amazing. And they're working on more options for payments automatically, as opposed to coming in and having to pay in person. So there's a lot of benefits to this. That's just the kind of the highlights. I actually have the presentation if anyone is interested in seeing the benefits of the Durham 311. So that was presented at Committee of the Whole. At Works, we had a really good report on using recyclables for asphalt in our asphalt. And there's going to be a pilot program on Regional Road number 18. And the report is really good if you have any interest in this at all, on breaking down the benefits of plastic, glass, and bottom ash that comes out of our EFT incinerator. And the different ways that these different recyclables work with the asphalt. I know probably everybody is yawning out there at this point, but it actually is a really interesting report. And it's an ingenious way to be able to use some of the recyclables that we can't get rid of anymore. China closed their doors on us. We can't sell our glass, glass has never been able, we've never been able to do anything with that, but our plastics. And so this is a really good way. And what it does with the asphalt is it actually improves the crack deterioration by combining these recyclables, creates resistance, and reduces moisture and frost damage. which, as you can tell from all of our roads at this point, after this horrible winter that we've had, all it does is it creates more repairs that we have to have, whether it's in your parking lots or your road systems or whatever. And if we can reduce that even a little bit, that helps save money for our taxpayers also. So now that if you've fallen asleep, I apologize. That was just, I thought that was very exciting. And then from Vision Zero, I'm just full of fun facts today. We had a report from Vision Zero on the red light camera, and I'm only going to keep it to the Ajax information, but our Westney and Delaney red light camera, we have since the beginning of, I believe it was might have been the end of 2020, beginning of 21. We've had 1,122 incidents where somebody has been charged with going through a red light. Charges laid were 848. At Bailey and Salem, incidences were 89, charges were 53. Lakeridge and Taunton, incidences were 76 with charges of 46. When it comes to our ASE cameras, Bailey, since the beginning, so that would have been beginning of 2020, I believe, we've had incidences, 871 incidences with charges of 387. Again, I have, if anyone has any burning desire to see the full report, I do have the full report from the Vision Zero, so I'm happy to share that if you want, but that is just the summary of the Ajax summary for Vision Zero, ASE cameras and red light cameras. So anyway, if you have any questions, that's pretty much all I had to say, I think.
Thank you. We'll get to questions in a minute, Councillor Bauer. There might be other regional council reports. Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Chair, and to Regional Councillor Crawford. I have a burning desire to see that report. So
yeah, me too.
Burning desire. At Planning and Economic Development, the kind of key thing was so before Planning and ECD, the Durham Environmental Advisory Committee put forth a motion to this committee asking for the inclusion of the Carruthers Creek headwaters in the green belts. This obviously there's been an issue that's top of mind for Ajax for a very long time, as well as any environmentally minded citizen. So unfortunately, it was no chance to debate or even endorse the motion because at the actual agenda, it was actually referred back to staff to be discussed during the municipal comprehensive review. So I imagine when staff take a look at this and suggestions are made, Team Ajax will absolutely have some very strong opinions about the inclusions of the headwaters into the green belt. But for now, we have to wait for the staff to report back to us. So that's the main one from Planning and ECD. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And is there any further regional council reports? I'll just quickly, we talked about the budget that's coming in. The regional budget is going to be 2.6% increase on the regional portion. And that's on I can't remember the number, but it's something like a $2.2 billion budget before revenues, which is just a massive, massive budget. I think I remember when I started on finance, it was 1.6. So the region has grown and the budget has grown. When you extrapolate that out, it is a small amount per family per year. And again, like our budget, able to move forward in a number of different areas positively, including something that's near and dear to my heart, which is increased by 55,000 hours per year of transit service as we move to recover from COVID, and hopefully more people will start taking transit again. Questions on the regional council reports? Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Chair. It's a question to Regional Councillor Crawford. What's the difference? So incidents versus charges.
So in the beginning stages, the cameras were actually giving out tickets. But when COVID hit in the early stages of COVID, the reporting centers were closed down, the courts were closed down. And so while tickets were being issued, they were not being charged because they have to go through the process of the reporting and the going to court. And if somebody was challenging it, then the challenge was put forward to the courts. The courts were closed. They were overloaded by all the tickets that were coming in at that point. And so many of them were actually just dropped. So the actual incidences were where the camera took the picture and the ticket was issued versus the actual charge that actually happened. So.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That was my question, Chair.
Any other questions by members of council? Councillor Crawford, thank you for talking about the use of recyclables. I'm sure some of us will recall we had a project in Ajax that was supposed to do exactly that. I think it was 3 years ago. It's supposed to be the path at the McLean Community Center in the back going to the splash pad. And unfortunately, it didn't end up happening. I am glad to hear that the region has sorted that out now, because there was all kinds of obstacles when we brought it forward. And it is going ahead. And I think it's an amazing thing to be able to use those products that we don't have a market for.
I actually believe it's an Ajax company that is doing the manufacturing for that.
It could be.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, who I also approached, but we weren't ready at the time. So I'm glad they're ready now. Anything further on regional council reports? Nope. So I have the motion moved by, regional council reports, moved by Councillor Crawford, second by Councillor Dyes, that the regional council reports of February 28th, 2022 be received for information. In favor of receipt? None opposed. That's carried. Moving on to our next item. Business arising from notice of motion. We've already dealt with our first item of the anti-Islamophobia motion. So moving on to Councillor Bauer and Councillor Lee, the town response to the January 17th snow event. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is pretty straightforward. The January 17th storm was the most snow that we've had in a long time, in 10 years. It's certainly the most snow we've had since our term of council began. So, and we received hundreds, if not thousands of emails, phone calls, messages. I know all of us on council did, and I'm sure that staff received even more. So I thought it was a good idea for a debrief, for a briefing of sort of what, what happened, or what was our response. And I do want to say that I really want to acknowledge and commend and congratulate and thank the very hardworking members of our town who I'm sure did not sleep for days because they were busy trying to care for our residents. So I just thought this would be a really interesting and good idea to see how, what was the plan, how did we do, and what can we do better next time? So thank you, Councillor Lee, for seconding, and I hope everybody will support this.
I think some of us didn't sleep for days either.
Ditto.
Councillor Lee, would you like to speak to this?
I will. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for Councillor Bauer for bringing this forward. And to her original point, this isn't necessarily, I don't have any specific complaints about the operations. I just think this motion is very specific because I suspect we're going to get more weather issues like we had on, half a meter of snow, and then a few days later, even more snow. And my concern is just I just want to make sure being proactive of acknowledging what could be a more frequent occurrence with climate change being as real as it is. So that's why it's really important that we kind of get it right. We kind of figure out what we could improve next time and get it right away the next time. I also think there should be an education component as well, because, a lot of the questions that council got were answers that we assumed the population knew already, whether it was regarding shoveling your sidewalk, the senior patrol, windrow clearance. So I think we should also include probably a communications component to this as well, where, in the fall, we whether it's through our town halls or communications through operations, we start reminding residents of their responsibilities regarding snow clearing. So I think it's a fantastic motion, and I'm looking forward to the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anything further? I'll just speak quickly to it. I did receive my share of phone calls, that's for sure. This was one of those kind of, and Councillor Lee, you're right. It's no longer 100-year storms we're talking about. 100-year storms happen every couple of years now. So some residents were critical of myself specifically, but council as a whole and staff, that we weren't prepared. And why weren't we prepared? We had a few days notice. And the simple fact is, when we do these snow contracts, they're issued years in advance. Oh, sorry, 5-year contracts, because the people that do these contracts for us have to make significant millions of dollars investments in equipment and staffing. And there just simply is no way to plan for every event. If we were to do that and have the staff on hand to deal with this mess that we had a few weeks ago, the other thing we'd be getting a lot of calls on is, why do we have so many staff sitting around and why are we wasting money paying people? So it's going to happen again. But if there is something that we can learn from this, great. I'm all for it. So hopefully there are a couple of things, but I just want to manage expectations. If residents maybe think that we're going to try and get the equipment and everything in place to make sure that if this happens again, we'll be able to deal with it, there's no way to do that. It's not a realistic expectation. So I just wanted to mention that. And Councilor Bauer, you said very well. Thank you to our staff. They worked around the clock on this. And with the provincial legislation, that does not help us when we have to give the mandatory rest. And all 14 of our trucks are going nonstop, but then we have to park them while we get this done. So it's a bit of a challenge, but if we can learn from it, great. Anything further on this? Councillor Dyes, is your hand up? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I really like the idea of including the responsibilities of the residents in this too. There's confusion out there as to what they are. And people get most upset because, you know, the sidewalks in residential areas are usually on one side of the street. Down here they are where I live. So people are a little frustrated that they have to clear the sidewalk, but people across the street don't. But I also think not just understanding what your responsibility is around your home, but understanding too that when there's a weather alert that says don't go out, you should listen. Mm-hmm. And you know, 2.5 feet of snow on the road, why would you even attempt to go out of your street like that? There's no way you're going to make it. Even the big trucks couldn't make it. The fire trucks got stuck. The snow plows got stuck. It was an unprecedented storm, a huge amount of snow. I agree that, yes, I think we need to do some education here in getting back to residents to explain how it operates and how it works as simply as possible. And we had lots of trucks out there, and it started, you know, the Sunday night, but that snow just didn't stop in there and light the problem. But I know, you know, our residents were very, very frustrated. We all were. For those who have appointments, I understand that. But it was a couple of days, and it was clear. It was clear enough to go out in your cars, which is pretty good. By Tuesday, you could do that. Some had some streets not still. So yes, the review would be great to look at it from the perspective of the town, their operations, as well as the responsibility of residents. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm glad you brought that up, Councillor Dyes, because those people that did try and get out and got stuck and left their cars abandoned on the road definitely did not help the situation in us getting our plow trucks through. So that is an important piece. Anything further on this? Oh, Councillor Crawford, go ahead.
I'm still waiting for my ride in the plow.
Oh boy.
Somebody was supposed to arrange it for me.
I hope you're not looking at me. I'm sure there's some labor law out there. Anyway, anything else on this? Nope. Those in favor of the motion? Let's see those hands. There you go. That's carried. Thank you. Finally, I'll turn the chair over to Councillor Lee while we do this last one, as I am the mover, and it's within support of Bill C-229, Banning Symbols of Hate Act, moved by myself, second by Councillor Khan. It's just the Ajax Council endorses Bill C-229, an act to amend the criminal code banning symbols of hate, and that this be distributed to the Prime Minister and all the other members of upper level government. Won't spend a lot of time on it. Pretty self-explanatory. I think we're all pretty aware of what happened with the trucks convoy and some of the things that happened there with symbols of hate. I think we've all seen on the news more recently a school in Toronto with some anti-Semitism happening with elementary students, which I find a little surprising. Like I said, when Mr. Mohammed was speaking, to me, Canada and Ajax especially has no place for symbols of hate or Islamophobia or anti-Semitism or any other form of racism. And I think anything that we can do, like supporting this bill, private member bill, to ban those in our country is just another step forward to help us address these issues. So I'd ask for your support, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Khan, as the seconder, did you want to speak on this?
Thank you, Chair. Like the mayor said, it's self-explanatory, but I would have thought that something like Bill C-229 would have been in existence already. I mean, what century are we living in? Ku Klux Klan and swastika flags? Like anti-Semitism, we're dealing with enough with our Jewish brothers and sisters, along with Islamophobia. And yeah, 100%, I fully second this and support the mayor, and we hope we get council support as well. Thank you for letting me speak, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to second this motion as well.
Thank you. Would any of the members of council like to speak? Questions or comments? Perfect, then we will call to vote. All in favor? Opposed? And the motion carries. I'll hand this back to Mayor Collier.
Thank you. I know we didn't do a recorded vote, but I saw 7 hands. That was unanimous. Just saying. Moving on to, sorry, let me just get to the agenda here. Do we have any bylaws? Moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Khan, the bylaw number 07/2022 to 13/2022 be read a first, second, third time and passed. Those in favor of the bylaws? Those are carried. Does any member of council have any notice of motion, Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Chair. This was very similar. This was inspired by the School God one, but realistically, I'll have a motion next month regarding the status and future of Casino Ajax. Timing is very specific as there is going to be a provincial election, and I'd like to think that there are certain questions we have to whoever takes government regarding the status of our casino and the revenues that we've been utilizing for our capital projects for many years. So that'll be my motion coming next month.
Thank you. And once they are all announced, I do intend on inviting all of the candidates to meet and have those discussions, as well as to what they feel are the most pressing issues for Ajax, and tell them what our most pressing issues are as well. So hopefully we're on the same page, but look forward to that motion coming forward. Any other notices of motion? No? Any new business or announcements? Crawford, Khan, Tyler Moore, and Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question, it's a question. So if this is inappropriate or the wrong place to ask it, I don't really know how to do this. But my question is around the state of emergency. So the province has been out of the state of emergency for over 1.5 years. Durham and Ajax still remain in a state of emergency, which is ridiculous because the passports no longer exist. And by March 14th or 15th, possibly the mask mandate will be no longer required. I don't know why we're hanging on to this state of emergency. The province seems to believe that COVID will be done in March 15th. What are we hanging on to here? This is, I think it's time that that the full authority come back to council. And so I'm just trying to understand why on earth we are still in this state of emergency.
Well, this is new business and announcements, so I'm going to rule that out of order, but I am absolutely willing to sit down and have that conversation with you as to why.
Business?
Well, that's not new business or announcements. I guess it is. I guess you could call it new business. I just don't recall us ever having new business on here, but I am absolutely open to having that conversation with you. It is something that we have discussed. And
I don't understand why we're still here.
Well, because we have had to follow provincial legislation and orders, and it was just not I won't say convenient, but practical to be able to get council together every time we had to make an important decision. We've kept it this way, but I agree it is time to have that discussion. I don't think it's time to have it here on the floor because we're not that far along. But I am absolutely open to having it, and Shane and I have discussed it, and we'll discuss it further. Shane, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing I would add is we've had this conversation a couple times recently during our CAO meetings. We meet every Tuesday to talk about COVID and who's doing what and so on, and where we're going. The mayor is correct, though. We're still making, even with the announcement tomorrow, we're still making administrative decisions about who to pull back to work and what doors to be open, what doors not to be open. Those are decisions that would tie up unnecessarily tie up time at council. But I agree, Councillor Crawford, that it definitely does look like that it's coming to an end, and so I don't think we're too far off. But in the discussions we have with the CAOs, one of the things that the regional CAO always brings up is that they do not want to lift the emergency order until we're sure that we've received all the provincial funding that we can get related to COVID, all the COVID funding. So that is a concern that she has raised a number of times. So, and we've all spoken as around the table that we don't want to start doing it one-offs. When we go to do it, we want to do it all at the same time. Now, having said that, we don't always agree. So yes, the mayor and I are in conversations about that, but I do think it's just a little bit premature, but I think we're really close.
Well, that's good to know. But when you talk about having conversations, Mayor Collier, who are you having the conversations with? Like me, or are all of us as council, or how does that conversation begin? Like I've been asking this now for probably, I don't know, since September, and I keep hearing these conversations. Yes, we're having the conversation, but it never really goes anywhere. So I'm just trying to understand.
Well, that's not really a fair statement, Marilyn. It goes somewhere. It's just been premature. Imagine if I had to call a special council meeting every time we got to do something with staff, or every time we have to make. That's why we have delegated authority to the CAO and myself right now, is so we can expedite these decisions. It's not that it didn't go anywhere. It's just when we had the conversations, it just wasn't appropriate at the time. We're certainly not the only municipality to still be under the state of emergency. I'm absolutely, as soon as the mask mandate is lifted, which is supposed to be somewhere, they say after March break, I think we probably will be there then. But really, realistically, it's not, things have moved very quickly through COVID, and the decisions are made like boom, 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 boom. And to try and convene council every time we need to try and do one of these things, is we wouldn't get them done, and then we'd be criticized for always being behind the gun and not, always being behind the game. So I hear your frustration, and
what is the course of action then?
We are going to have the discussion, and we're going to bring it to council when we feel the time is right to lift the state. But as Shane said, we did all agree with all of the mayors and CAOs at the start of this to do this together, so we don't have one and another. And I got people calling me saying, well, Whitby's doing this, why aren't you doing this? And Pickering's doing this, why aren't you doing this? We did have that sort of informal agreement at the start, and you haven't seen our neighbors doing it yet. So we're just not quite there yet, but we're almost there. We just have the one major thing being lifted tomorrow, which is opening things up. So we don't have to still ask for vaccine passports when people go, and proof of vaccination when people go into our facilities. And I think the next step is the mask one, which is supposed to happen around the middle of the month, and I think we'll probably be there. But to go back to September, I think we can all agree before Omicron, we weren't there. It's just not something that was, and I guess, council delegated authority, so we get to make that decision. You might not like the answer, but that is the answer. We feel we're almost there now, and we will be coming back to council soon.
Okay.
Yeah. Councillor, sorry, who is next? Con?
Actually, Chair, mine's actually related to that. If I can just, it's a very quick question. If it's not an announcement. But through the chair to the clerk, then, I'm under the impression that our council chambers is not ready for in-person yet. So even because of the tech issues, is that true?
Yes, that's correct. That project has been delayed due to the global hardware shortage. So we are doing our best to get it done as quickly as possible. But at this time, the major components are not expected to be delivered until May. And we'll be bringing a report to GGC in March just to outline the nature of the delays and our recommendations for the remainder of the term.
Great, that is helpful. So thank you, Chair.
Yep. Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on a lighter note, I mean like weight loss. You know, there's March, April, May in our months, and in Islam there is Shaban, Ramadan, and Shawwal. So this is the month of Shaban when we prepare for the holy month of Ramadan, and this is a big month. As you all know, you've learned a lot about Ramadan since I've been on council with you. This is our last Ramadan in our term, and it's going to start around early April 3rd, I think. And I want to take this opportunity to help you to prepare with me for Ramadan. And I would like to invite you to fast with me a couple of days to understand the sacrifices and what we do for community and how it softens your heart to serve in our position, in our platforms. And the mayor and I have spoken, and we're planning some big things at the mosque. And I would love for you all to, when the time is right, to come and break fast with us one day. So I just this is where we prepare in the month of Shaban, we prepare for the month of Ramadan, which is very soon. So you got to get your mind geared for it. And I hope you will take that little challenge and experience what we do. And yeah, not even water. So thank you, Your Worship.
You're welcome, Councillor Tyler Moran.
Thank you, Worship. We have our next Ward 1 community meeting in Ward 1 on March 15th. I'm 99% sure it's in my calendar, although it does say it official. But yes, our next Ward 1 community meeting, which will be on Zoom, and we'll invite everyone. You'll see it on social media, but if you want to put that in your calendars, Regional Councillor Crawford and I will be hosting, and look forward to seeing everyone. Thank you.
And Councillor Bauer, I believe, was next.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention this Saturday, if anyone is looking for something to do now that you can go places, the St. Francis Center is having a performance by the young novelists. It's at 7 o'clock, 7 to 9 on Saturday, March 5th, and tickets are free. So the young novelists are a couple who went and traveled around small towns in Ontario, and they wrote some music and some funny songs based on all of that research. So if you're looking for something to do, tickets are free. Look on the website, Saturday, March 5th, 7 to 9 at St. Francis. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Dyes, did I see your hand? Excuse me.
No, it was related to Councillor Crawford's inquiry about lifting the declared emergency. So I just wanted to say that, you know, I do support some information coming forward. I'd like to know, I had a better understanding of how it's tied to the grants and some of the things that you had mentioned. Thank you.
Very good. Anything further? Councillor Bauer, you forgot?
Thanks, Chair. I did forget. We do have another council meeting in March prior to this, but I thought I'd give everybody lots of advance notice. The Ward 3 meeting with Regional Councillor Dyes and I is scheduled for Wednesday, March the 30th at 7 o'clock. So stay tuned for some more details, but we hope that you will attend. We're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Okay. Any Councillor Cott?
Your Worship, I'm just trying to drag this meeting on a bit longer so I can win the bet for 10 o'clock. So I'm just like dragging it on. That's all. Thank you for indulging me.
Anything further? No. All right, moving on to the confirming bylaw. Moved by Councillor Dyes, second by Councillor Tyler Moran. All right, let me just get to it. The bylaw number 14-2022 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ajax at its meeting held on February 28th, 2022 be read a first, second, third time and passed. Those in support of the confirming bylaw? There we go. Those hands are going up slow. You guys are trying to drag this on. And finally, moved by Councillor Bauer, second by Councillor Khan, the February 28th, 2022 meeting of the Council of the Town of Ajax be adjourned. Now I just got to wait 5 minutes till it's my time. All right, go ahead. Those in favor. That has unanimous approval. Thank you.